Hi, everybody. Dr. Bartholomew here. Congratulations on making it through the first week of the course. You should be very proud of yourselves based off of what I've read so far on your educated opinion post in the weekly discussion boards. I've been really impressed with the quality of work that you've produced, especially given that it's the first week of the course, and especially considering the situation that we're in. I know it's still a very stressful time dealing with both COVID-19 as well as the racial injustices that have been happening, spurring the Black Lives Matter movement. And of course, racism is a topic we're going to be talking much more about during week 3. But this upcoming week, in week 2, we're going to be addressing social problems of poverty and social problems pertaining to education. Now, the reason we're beginning with these two specific social problems after laying our groundwork in week 1 for just kind of an introduction to sociology and introduction to social problems is because the majority of social inequities in the United States today are in some way, shape, or form connected to social class standing. So another way of saying that is a lot of social problems are pertaining to money, or in this case, the lack thereof. So if you took my Introduction to Sociology course or any Intro to Sociology course, I'm sure you were introduced to the terms of social class or social class stratification. And that's essentially just the way that we as sociologists understand groups of people based off their socioeconomic standing in society. So if you remember back from my course, if you took that, or in your any other Intro to Sociology course, you would have been introduced to this reality that there is a very great disparity in terms of the distribution of wealth in the United States. So that's to say that the poor people in the US are very poor, the rich people in the US are very rich, and the middle class, which is what most people choose to self-identify as, is actually relatively small. The majority of people actually would skew left of that to being lower social class or lower middle class in comparison to the wealthiest people in the United States. So just to put this into perspective, the richest 1% of people in the United States possess more wealth than the bottom 80% of people combined, right? The richest 1% actually possess over 90% of the wealth in the United States. So just to put that into perspective, and that huge disparity between some people being super, super rich and other people being super, super poor obviously results in a lot of inequality in our society today. So as you'll see this week as we discuss the social problem of poverty, oftentimes in the United States, we are socialized from a young age to view poverty, to view being poor as being an individualistic problem, right? I'm sure everyone has heard at some point, maybe you even believe this to a certain degree, that poor people are poor simply because they're lazy. If someone wanted to work hard enough, they could find a job. I'm sure you've heard that saying, anyone can pull themselves up by the bootstraps, right? And as I kind of introduced last week from a sociological perspective, we're going to be very critical of that claim. Remember, sociologists are never going to immediately blame an individual for their problem. We are going to blame the system first. We're going to look for structural problems that prevent people from attaining upward social mobility, that prevent people who are poor from actually rising out of poverty and getting into the middle class or even the working middle class. Because as we'll talk about this week in our discussion of poverty as a social problem, it is very difficult to attain upward social mobility if you have countless structural barriers preventing you from doing that. Sometimes a hard work ethic simply isn't enough to raise yourself out of poverty when you're dealing with structures of inequality that prevent you and prevent your work ethic from getting paid or from escalating outside of poverty. So that's why we start with poverty, and then education just kind of goes along with that, because one's educational status is a direct measurement of their likelihood of achieving upward social mobility. So a lot of people say, well, yeah, if you want to get out of poverty, you got to go to school. You have to get a college degree to get a well-paying job. But as we'll talk about in education, it's not that simple either. A lot of times, individuals living in poverty would like to go to school, they would like to get a degree, but the same structural barriers that are in place from preventing them from rising out of poverty are there preventing them from obtaining a college degree. So we're going to take a look at a lot of these social problems pertaining to poverty and to education. Again, I ask you to approach these issues with an open mind. Sociology as a science, again, is going to challenge us to think outside of our individual perspectives and to go up into that hot air balloon and look down at the world with a much broader perspective. The discussion questions this week are, again, going to seem like I'm asking strictly for your opinions, but remember, I'm asking you to have educated opinions, right? To defend the opinions that you have with the by citing the sources that I'm asking you to read and the videos I'm asking you to view, the PowerPoint presentations I'm going over, and the weekly content. So make sure you continue to cite your opinions using reliable, scientifically proven sources rather than just your opinions. And again, approach this material with an open mind, lean into being uncomfortable, discussing these social problems pertaining to poverty and education, and I really look forward to seeing the work that you produce this week. As always, feel free to contact me with any questions or concerns, and I hope you find the content for this week to be very informative and hopefully help you break into your sociological imaginations more. All right, take care, stay safe.